And hello, everyone.
How you doing?
Welcome to Dice Jailers, show where we talk about things. Kind of.
As we think of them.
Yep. Still working on an intro. If you couldn't
Yep.
tell. I'm Jordan,
I'm Bjorn.
and this week our plan is to talk about how, like D&D and tabletop magic would affect college.
Yeah.
Because like we talked about it with sports last week, and it was super great. And we still have fond memories of our extra schooling. Sorry, the word extra for some reason would not come out of my mouth. Uh,
Speak for yourself. I have very few fond memories regarding college.
Fair enough.
My
But
school
yeah,
sucked.
but
No free advertising for you.
woof.
Yeah. Yep.
But before we start, how have you been this last week?
Uh I've been good. Think right now what's mostly good is with work. So long story short, so I don't go into the whole details of what I do when I'm not performing and when we're not doing this.
Hmm.
To pay the bills, I work in medicine. I used to work in corporate medicine, which sucked. And now I work for a small business. It is a naturopath and mental health office. We are in the process of moving from one location to another. I work
Oof.
with the nicest, coolest, most supportive people. And this whole week has been about preparing our new office. We don't know when we can actually have people inside. One, because construction's not done, and two,
Mhm.
COVID. But we know it soon. And so one of the big things that's done is the idea of bringing positive thoughts, positive energy, and blessings to this place for those who work there and for all that are going to come there to try and better their lives and their health. And what I love about it is everyone who works there means it when they're saying, we want to bless this place, we want it to be good energy, we want it to be supportive, we want it to be welcoming, like nobody's speaking bullshit with it. And so it's very cool to work with a group who actually, I know for a fact, cares about their patients. So that's been really cool. I haven't been doing a whole lot performance wise or like outside of work this week, but work's been great. So yeah, that's been cool.
Nope.
What about you, man? What's going on?
I'm a lot actually. So just and even just today,
Yeah.
I did what I like to do, my stream cleaning,
Yep.
where it appears as though I've cleaned, and I've actually just pushed everything that's a proper mess out of the way of this frame.
That's good. That's good.
But we had
You
some
fooled me. Like I'm sold.
some excitement in the house the other night, because in with the fun of the dogs being able to kind of occasionally get out.
Wait,
Uh,
wait. I got who let the dogs out?
so this stream's ending prematurely. Uh, but surprisingly enough, not the Baja Men. The dogs let themselves out.
Ooh, smart puppies.
Yeah. Uh, well, smart, not really, but Sativa's there. Um,
A dog named Sativa.
yes, that
I'm
is
for
correct.
this. I'm for this.
It's
Like,
a lovable beast. The other
yeah.
little dog Jelly also lovable. They're phenomenal. But
Okay.
they can. We try and have a way for them to get out so they don't constantly pee in the hallway and on the stairs.
Sure.
Because they're
Have
still
you figured out a
puppies.
way to keep your housemates from doing that? Step two. That's
Step
step
two.
two.
Step two.
Yeah.
But
Baby
so
steps. Baby steps.
and so in keeping this house pretty dog friendly,
Yep.
uh, there's also other animals that can occasionally try to get in. So there was a rat in our house the other day. That was a nightmare.
Sure.
Uh, and it totally got my brain and thinkings away from the project that I'm in on that I can talk about
Yeah.
with Reboot Theater. They're doing what they're calling their test kitchen,
Hmm.
which is newly written monologues and short pieces and stuff like that over Zoom.
Very cool.
And I get to direct two of the like sections of pieces for their test kitchen day 2. That I have to make sure that I don't confuse the day of dress rehearsal and the actual performance. Yeah. So October 26th with Reboot Theater. It starts at 7 p.m. Pacific time, and my pieces, I get to direct a set of monster monologues
Oh,
written by Colleen Conway Blanchard. For those of you Seattle theater people, you recognize that name and you know that amazing writing that Colleen always does. And I also get to direct a piece called Meteorite by a writer named Zed, who is actually not in Washington, and none of our actors are also in Washington. It's a
oh, cool.
lovable piece, and I'm super excited to be directing them. And the fact that I'm kind of doing things again, uh, but directing for Zoom is weird.
It's different, isn't it? Just
Yeah,
a whole experience.
I feel like I'm more a voice acting director than a director,
Fair. That's fair.
which is triple weird for me because my directing style is usually closer to, all right, I trust my actors to do things properly because I pick good actors, and
Sure.
then I tweak from there. And a lot of my tweaking is just spacing, usually, to highlight different things that they're already doing. And so the fact that I don't get to play with spacing and like as much, and I don't get to play with levels as much, is going to be freaking wild.
Sure. Like you come up with an idea for like a certain tableau that you want them to present, and being unable to orchestrate that like throws off your game.
Hmm. And it's also it's just weird, you know, because I usually use like space and shape to structure feelings in things that I direct, and now it's just like, all right, we're gonna work on these interpersonal relationships and your voices and your faces. Let's do this.
Different. Different.
Yeah. So that's what I've been up to, is just reading over those different pieces a million times and dealing with the rat or rats.
Nice. Did you get rid of the rat?
I think so.
As someone who has lived in a home where a rat has gotten in before, I understand what you mean by I think so,
Yeah.
because you're not always 100% sure. And I'm sure there are those out there who are far more skilled than I than removing a rat from your home. But what I've noticed is if you have a mouse and you need to get that out, it's not too difficult. You catch said mouse, you take it
Hmm.
outside, you dispose of said mouse, and let it go back to its mousy life outside. A rat, on the other hand, you find and corner said rat, and the rat just looks at you and goes, "Can I help you?"
Hmm.
And you go, "No, I'm just going about my business. It's good." And you just kind of wait until the rat decides it's willing to go.
Yeah.
Because
I mean, unless you are the kind of person that is okay with harming a small creature like that, which I am not entirely.
I'm
So
not, because I'm afraid I'm going to lose a fight to a rat.
that would be hilarious. But you know who would probably lose a fight to a rat?
Me,
A freshman wizard
a
in
freshman
college.
wizard. This is true. Well, I mean,
Because
it's
they have
true
so
because
few there's so few hit points.
we we are, after all, talking about magic.
You're gonna find an excuse to do that in every episode from now on, aren't you?
I might. I mean, if we're talking about if we want to talk about magic, I don't even do it well. I don't even do it well. Like that's the best part. I'm really
It's
bad at it, and I know
it's you're really dad at it.
it. I am. I am. For
Hmm.
someone who's of children, my propensity for dad jokes is kind of amazing. Like
And it's they're dad quality.
they are, and I'm quite proud of that, because there's nothing like a dad joke to make somebody so just they don't know what to do with their life, and they just kind of leave a conversation sometimes, and it's wonderful to see the look on their face because they have nothing to say about it.
Because it's just, can I just go?
That's the
which
beauty of a dad joke because you can't insult a dad joke. You can't tell somebody that joke was terrible. It's stupid. When yeah, I know.
that was the point.
Like that. Yeah, that was the whole reason I did that.
which
Like, I
which
guess the
like
only insulting thing about it is if somebody really thinks that I thought that was like the pinnacle of comedy. I guess that's the only level I could be offended. Where it's like, really, you think I think that? But regardless,
yeah.
going back to a freshman wizard. Yes.
And so we wanted to talk about because of how much fun it was to talk about sports in relation to Magic.
Yeah.
We decided like what about because through so much of fantasy in games and in shows and in books, there's the idea of the Wizards College. And
Yes.
like it's a
Yes.
place where a bunch of wizards go, they're all together and they're just learning their magic because wizards at the end of the day are just powerful nerds.
They are, and I have to say, now I've never played a wizard in more than a one shot for D&D.
Mhm.
There's a game coming up this November. I'm likely playing in where I'm planning on playing a wizard for a lengthy adventure. It'll be different for me. I
Mhm.
don't like to play a class that has a hit die lower than a D10. It's really weird for me to think about, but I'm going to try it because the idea of playing that smart character, something that it's about their brains. So I think it's not just that they would be students, right? Like you wouldn't have, for example, a a wizard that was going to a community college, most likely. And I am not
Mhm.
ragging on community colleges. Community college grad right here. Like,
Community college, great way to save money and still get the same quality as your general education.
yeah, get those 100 and 200 level classes knocked the hell out, man. Just
Although it would be funny to see like a web series on a community wizard college where they
oh,
just
Wizards on a budget.
they
I think
have so little
I've already got
funding.
the name. I've got the name of it. You ready? You ready? It's called multi-class.
Well, we're gonna have to make this now.
It is because that'd be the thing. It would only be people who multi-classed in Wizard because their intelligence was only a 13.
Mhm. As well as just like all the spells that they want to try to cast, but man, you know the school doesn't have budget for those material components.
They don't. They don't have the budget for the material components. You can't get good spell scrolls at the bookstore. Like
Mhm.
those wouldn't be around.
And like just God, the bookstore at a wizard's college. Like think about like because I went to I went to a 4 year university. I went to Central Washington University in the middle of nowhere, Ellensburg. Uh,
Yep, I've been there.
which the middle of nowhere, Ellensburg, right now has, if you've ever been there, the most hilarious attempts come because just about all of them are like if you've ever lived there for more than a weekend, no. like things
While
that they
while
say, all the things
at least my school was terrible, I at least had the pleasure of living in beautiful Bellingham, Washington.
Hmm.
And my life I spent living in Bellingham were great.
and just in the school bookstore, how much of a weird nightmare that is already is. Now imagine that with actual like spell scrolls that can do things and the stupid markup there would be on ink and paper.
Oh, sure. And I mean, if you think about any material component, because like, and I think of the material components because again, as a theater student, we all have either had or at least saw the same identical nine make
I it
every
that
friggin' theater student.
it's behind my table in those shelves.
It's over there. Yep, yep.
And those things
Which
costing too
the
much.
Ben Nye makeup kit that yeah, the makeup for all the skin tones between white and other white. Like this was
Mhm. Oh no, they
everything. Are you a white person or are you a really pale white
yep.
person?
We had
We
to
got you covered,
special
kind of.
order every kit for every person of color that was at my school. And my
Oh,
kit
I bet
came
you
in the
did.
first
I
time
believe that
incorrect.
100%. You got the one that was meant for a guy who looked like me.
Uh, Not quite. Like halfway in between the two of us is about the one that
Okay.
I got. So and thankfully I was able uh to give it to another student, and then we like shared the cost of the next one for me,
They're
so that
covered.
it didn't cost quite as much for the
Sure,
both of us,
sure.
but but just thinking material components for Wizards College,
So
like
expensive.
the price would skyrocket. But all of the fun things of living in a dorm, which I did for a year. I don't know about you.
I did not. I lived in an apartment off campus because I did 2 years community, and then because for us you had to audition to get into the acting major.
Hmm.
It took so long to get in there that my first 2 years were kind of just in limbo for the sake of things.
Mm.
No, yeah, I lived off campus, which um, there were some ups, there were some downs to it. I could do a whole hour just talking about all that shit. But yeah, like
But
the
the
spells that
fun.
one could have living on campus. I'll tell you the biggest thing I'd have wished I would have had access to. And granted, this is not something one would have as a lowly freshman, or I mean, hells, I was technically a junior when I came in, but I don't think even I would have had access to something like a teleportation circle. How
Mm,
much could I have used a teleportation circle that if I could have gone somewhere near my apartment, somewhere similar to like a bus stop, where I
hmm
could have teleported right the hell to the Performing Arts Center where most of my classes were located, or even just a red square right in the heart of the campus.
right.
So I wouldn't have had to worry about buses, or for the people who were, fortunate enough to be able to afford to drive, parking and all that. Because I don't care what college you go to, parking's at a premium because there are far
There's
more people who want to go than
Yeah,
have parking
there's never
spots.
enough parking. Not even for just the
No.
people that live on campus, which
Yeah. So how great would
is
like a
ridiculous.
teleportation circle be?
Yeah, I
Or
mean,
if
and there'd
make
be
friends
so
with the druid,
many. Mm-hmm.
make friends with the druid,
Tree
tree
stride.
stride or wind walk.
Yep. Oh, wind walking to class.
Right? You do that
It'd
in
be so
seconds.
great. But like I'm
Just make
thinking
sure you
about.
get there a minute. You got to get there a minute early so you have time to revert.
Yep. You have that one professor that's okay with with students reverting the first minute of class. You gotta,
Yeah. We.
because you'd have the cool professor that's also a sorcerer.
Yep. Yep. Oh yeah.
But
And
like,
your other professor, the one that's a complete prick, they're also a sorcerer though.
hmm thinking about some of the things about being on campus for for an American college, because I
Yep.
realized that there is one friend of mine that is watching this that has not ever and does not currently live in America. So American college is freaking wild, for one. Uh,
Congrats to you for living in a country that is dealing with COVID far better than we are.
yeah, but the American colleges for the dorm life is absolutely ridiculous. Uh, Movies in most places, you think that a movie will exaggerate. Not really. Not really for college dorms. No, not really.
I think for a lot of that, your cantrips are going to be
Mm-hmm.
so so useful. Um, I think the one that would have come the most handy for me just in life in general, and it's one of my favorite cantrips in the game, prestidigitation.
Yep.
The ability to just clean something up real quick, just get it
Mm-hmm.
clean, get it
And
clean.
think about prestidigitation for the college, for even the whole college campus,
Mhm.
because one of the big annoyances, especially in the dorms, especially in American colleges, are kids that have freedom for the first time, so they're able to drink for the first time. So they then drink too much and drunk puke for the first time.
Ah, yes.
And the the annoyance of when you too have freedom for the first time and you
Well, like,
drank
oh,
for the first
Bono?
time.
I didn't know Bono went to your school.
But you stupid.
Yeah, it's gonna
When
happen all
you,
night.
I don't know, are hungover as all get out, and it takes like 2, 3 days sometimes for the custodial staff to be able to
Sure.
properly get that smell out of your dorm. Prestidigitation for a couple of minutes, boom, which would be beautiful for life there. It would get rid of, I don't know, my worst drunk story. There was a day, a morning after I had gotten irresponsibly drunk,
So it
is
was
the
a
best way to
Wednesday.
say.
It was a
Uh,
Wednesday.
rude. It was a Thursday. Uh, and someone needing to sneak the alcohol past the RA, uh, and try to not get caught with it,
Sure.
ended up just dropping the bottle and running, which means there was a full bottle of vodka that was just dropped and shattered in the stairwell. Then my hungover self had to walk down that stairwell in the morning to try and go get me some drunk food to soak that up. Yeah. Rough time. Prestidigitation. Easily fix that.
Would have helped. Would have helped. Now, here's kind of where what I kind of wanted to get into on this is talking about the different wizard schools.
Mm-hmm.
How do you think the different schools might translate to colleges and whatnot? Like, do you think
Mm-hmm.
you're going to have a variety of all the schools represented in performance, or would this be a thing that like um, war magic, for example? Would you have to go to a military school for some of that? Like, are we talking things like West Point for
Mm-hmm.
something like that? Um, School of Enchantment, is that going to be like Juilliard? Since that's a performance thing, it's a little more uh, charismatic.
Mm-hmm.
Blade singers, elves go to, I don't know, friggin' Berkeley College of Music. Like, why not?
I mean, I definitely think that like the different schools of magic, there would be specialty schools, kind of like how colleges still have their like, we teach everything, but here's our thing that we do.
Okay.
Where like with like at Central when I went there, which sadly this is no longer a draw there, just because uh well, because the program was too good. But there was a chimposium, and so like there was actually like
I
a
heard
well
about
running
this.
enclosure, and
Yes.
thankfully the program like was too good, and so the chimpanzees were able to be let out in various forms, so they then were out of chimpanzees. But for a while, that was a big draw for the psychology department,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
for a while it became a big psych school. I mean, I went there for theater. I mean, I
Yeah.
also did go there for psychology, and then realized psychology wasn't exactly what I wanted to do. But uh,
Yeah.
like the big draw was the chimposium and psychology. So you'd have that. Like you'd have a big. I think psychology would probably be uh, uh, not conjuration. I would think abjuration, honestly, for
Okay.
psychology. But like there's a big draw for like the abjuration school, but also we teach these other things too.
So here's what I want to throw out there for a moment. Would you or would you not agree that basically evocation, while it is kind of the most standard wizardy of wizards, would you kind of agree? And if you think there's a different one, I would love to hear. Evocation wizards are kind of like the jocks of
Oh,
wizards.
absolutely.
Okay,
Hmm.
so here's my question: are most of the evocation schools, are they the SEC? Considering most SEC schools, what are they known for? Football.
I mean, that's kind of true. Although I feel like those evocation jocks would be more widespread than just football.
Well, sure, sure, but I'm just
But
wondering,
yeah,
like,
I do think that
where
would
would
be
we
the
factor, like, how the athletics is worked into this? If we wanna kinda divide up, conferences to the idea of the schools, and maybe I'm only saying this because football's on the mind because it is, football season,
yep.
but
No, I think you're right on that. Where
okay,
like the SEC would be big evocation schools.
yeah,
But I would also say that depends on how how college sports exists with Magic, like with what we talked about last week.
absolutely.
Uh, because if that's the case, you'd probably like in some of the ones at least that think things through better, which most of them would be because they are wizards colleges.
Okay.
They would probably have the biggest ones would probably have of a side of like a clerics commune
Mhm.
in at the Wizards College, like University of Washington has the UW Medical Center,
Yep.
but also UW football. There's a reason why sports medicine, like some of the best sports medicine doctors in the state, are just straight up at UW.
Oh, it's not an accident. It's not
And
an accident
so
at all.
like you'd have these big wizards colleges that yeah, they have their amazing evocation stuff to equate to being their jocks and being their athletes. But you'd have just as many incredibly skilled clerics that would also need to be involved.
Well, then wouldn't you all your clerics, wouldn't those mostly be at, like, your religious schools?
See, you'd think that, but with in D&D with magic with clerics also being medicine, it'd be a weird part of both where you'd have the more like scholarly clerics or even like the battle clerics going to uh going to places like BYU. I couldn't not mention BYU. I couldn't.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong, and I love the idea of BYU being, um, Battle Cleric University, essentially.
I
I'm
mean
for it.
kinda because like BYU has a pretty freaking solid like most of their sports teams are really good,
No, you're not wrong.
all
You're not
things
wrong.
considered. But
There is
also,
something to be said for that.
I mean, Utah, heavy Mormon influence. So
Yes.
also like clerics of clerics of that sect of Christianity are going to want to go there just
Sure.
because it's there.
Less wizardry, because that's less intelligence, more wisdom.
Mhm.
Which there's a
Well,
joke
like
there that I'm just not going to touch.
yeah. Well, like if wizards colleges were being brought into being more like current American colleges,
Sure.
because I don't know anything about the UK education. Um they would have to be more multidisciplinary than your fantasy wizard college would be.
Mhm.
Because like a lot of fantasy wizard colleges are like that one school kind of thing.
Sticking with the idea of wizards, colleges, going with all that, I think if you look at how a wizard levels up, right,
Hmm.
it's interesting to think about at what point do we feel like this becomes graduate school? And kind of what I mean by that is not just in the abilities they get, because you get your signature spells at a certain
Hmm.
level, and you get spells that you just don't automatically. But then thinking about their named spells within the game, right? You've
Yeah.
got Melf's Acid Arrow, Liamon's Tiny Hut, Mordenkainen's Magnificent Mansion, Tasha's Hideous Laughter. Do you think some of these named spells, or perhaps iteration of them, is that similar to like defending your doctorate thesis?
I think so.
Okay.
I think that like your PhD, like your doctorate thesis is creating your spell.
Okay.
And if it's not like different enough from the standard version of the spell. Out of here, doctorate denied.
There you go. So you could still be a master wizard, so have like your master's degree, but to reach that like doctorate level, you've got to actually create something new.
Exactly. And also, just talking through this now, trying to implement that into a game story sounds super fun.
I'm for it. Like the idea
Uh,
of having someone playing a wizard and having them come up with their own spell, and sort of the challenge of it being, is it balanced for the game?
hmm
Because you'd have to, like, if we're going to say if they created a third level spell, you're going to have to look at what other spells amongst third level can do and make
right.
sure it's not breaking the game. Um, so yeah,
And also like coming up with the fun of like what are the material components for it could be super fun for a game. Because I know like especially because in college I hung out a lot with not just the theater kids,
mhm,
but a bunch of the visual art kids, especially like the sculptors and the painters,
okay,
and watching them process how to pick like which kind of paint on which medium and which thing to be mixed with and what to use as a frame if they're doing like friend of mine, Philippe, who's a phenomenal artist. Uh, Philippe doing pour over art and how long to let it solidify before going on to the next color, what to what to harden the paint over, what to mix the paint with to make it harden in a different way. Just listening to all those different thoughts could be huge for a wizard picking what material components go into their signature spell.
sure. Well,
And
and that's kind of where the wizards can get really interesting when you go
mhm,
into the material components. Because for anyone who hasn't really looked at the material component for a spell that requires them, I personally find that's always a really fun thing to look at. Like mage armor, the material component is a piece of fleece, is
mhm,
what that one says. So I think that's going to be so interesting depending on how any individual wizard uses it. And so the idea of also us talking about the different colleges as we know them in the US versus like wizard colleges, maybe different places teach you to use that fleece a different way, right?
mhm.
Like maybe some of them you're wrapping it around your hands and so it would extend along the arms and you're using your arms more as deflection with the mage armor. Maybe some of them make it more into a breastplate. And maybe something you
Mhm.
just slap it right in the middle of your forehead and you've got this like big, goat horned wizard helmet. You just block
Yeah,
stuff with your dome. I don't know. But
and I totally think that would happen even with the usual spells uh coming from different wizard colleges
yes.
because like you have people that went to I don't know to LSU. I've done some work with different actors around the country and just like talking with people and like actors that come out of LSU have a totally different style of like how they interpret Chekhov and like how they interpret like the Stanislavski method
Sure.
as an actor, from the West Coast. And so those differences in magic would totally come out,
Yes. Yes.
which are cool to think about because I totally would imagine a wizard from LSU, their mage armor would because it's LSU, their mage armor definitely be leopard print still,
I mean, probably.
like some kind of big cat, because obviously not everyone's gonna go just with the standard LSU everything, but they'd still like not a big cat feel though,
I
although
think
it would never be a jaguar.
I think you can get into a lot of fun is what people do with their familiars.
Also,
because
yes.
because you can't just always do the mascot.
Oh no, I'm imagining familiars in a dorm.
I mean, think about it. Like, think about somebody from Alabama. You can't have an elephant familiar.
Nope.
You can't. But if
You
you
can
got to be a
certainly
powerful
try.
enough wizard, you got to be a powerful enough wizard. Could you create like maybe a little miniature mouse-sized elephant as your
Probably.
familiar? I
It's
see.
definitely what we ask my cousin every time because he is the smart one of the family, and we're like, so you're smart enough. You have your doctorate in sciency stuff that we don't understand. Can you make a tiny elephant yet? It's a tiny elephant and a tiny giraffe every time.
Those are the two things we want. Have
Mhm.
you made the nacho cheese plant yet?
I also think like with wizard colleges and regular colleges kind of making this combined weird mismatch, all of the accidental dumb weird spells that are gonna show up. Do you think about all of the like even just in doing theater,
Mhm.
all of the ridiculously dumb and honestly bad ideas for studio projects?
Sure.
Now those are magic.
Well, I'm gonna float something to you that I don't think your brain has gone here yet, and I think your reaction is just simply going to be "Oh no" when this is presented to you. So we're
Okay.
talking about spells, we're
Okay.
talking about wizards, and all of
Okay.
that, which leads me to think of magic items because wizards have had to create those. And oh, just you wait, Henry Higgins, just you wait, because there's a specific place I'm going here.
I'm
um,
scared.
because we're talking about college in general. So the magic that allowed the alchemy jug to be created, because one of the things it can create is gallons of beer.
That would make my Kappa Sigma fraternity brothers so happy.
And this is how all the wizard college students died, was
The
alcohol
alchemy
poisoning.
jug stand.
Yeah, that's the thing. This
Oh no.
I may have just discovered the crux of why this can't happen,
Oh no. I
because
mean, you'd have to have like all the RAs would be equipped with like just
spare the dying. That's what they be
well
equipped with.
like
Spare the
half of
dying.
their half of their salary would just be like spell scrolls of dispel magic.
Oh, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. In fact,
They're
because
just
I've forgotten, I'm literally looking up.
that would the school would go broke on how many scrolls of like dispel magic and counterspell they would need to have on hand.
Yes, because one alchemy jug can create 4 gallons of beer. Now, it can't do it again until the next dawn. But let me tell you, 4 gallons of beer
Yeah,
is not a small amount of
it
beer.
it's not.
And this is an uncommon magic item. So,
Hmm.
by it being an uncommon magic item, this tells me that there would be people who had access to it. So,
Hmm.
yeah, I think this is ultimately will be the downfall of all wizard schools, as they all died of alcohol poisoning from the alchemy jug.
I mean, there are gonna be plenty of people who still choose to not drink, who still like can maintain their limits,
Sure.
like because
I,
there are plenty of people without magic that do.
okay, I want to float this idea next. So let's just say you have, just because we know it gives 4 gallons of beer, we're going to say you have 4 wizards who have gotten together for their little alchemy jug party. And somehow they have access to 2 alchemy jugs. And one
Hmm.
of them creates 4 gallons of beer. That's a gallon each, which
Yep.
is a lot. So, as these 4 individuals are each consuming their gallon of beer, how long into the evening do you think it is before one of them makes mayonnaise with the other alchemy jug and they try and eat it all? And this is
Yeah.
why wizards can't go to college in
but
the United States,
but
because
also
they eat
I
mayonnaise.
if you're going to a wizard's college to be a wizard,
Uh-huh.
you're probably going to need to be smart enough to not do that.
I'm gonna tell you right now, you know what the solution on it would be, and it's gonna kind of kill everything we've been talking about so
Hmm.
far, but this is the reality of it. There would just be dispel magic in all the dorms. They would just
Oh,
be buildings,
you'd
dispel magic.
you'd have to.
You wouldn't be able to cast a spell.
Well, it's like it'd probably be like with most at least I don't know how it is at other colleges because I only went to one, but uh with the music students, like you need to practice. And of
Sure.
course there are practice rooms, but there aren't enough practice rooms for everyone.
No.
So there would be also practice times where like even in the dorms like yeah, it's okay to play your trombone at full blast through this time. But after then, no. And so you just have you'd have to have magic items of anti-magic fields
Yep.
that can be turned on and off all around campus, otherwise lunacy.
Which I'm not against.
Yeah, no, I think that would be the only way to keep the students safe and to keep the professors safe.
You throw that word safe around like it's a possibility in this asinine scenario we've concocted.
I mean, relative safety. It's like when they say in football trying to keep the players safe.
Which really just
Eh.
means trying to keep, Vegas happy.
Well, yeah.
So I think where it could get interesting is what wizards would add to the level of banned substances on a campus. Because when you think about material component, what is one of the well-known material components of Fireball is guano.
Bat guano.
Exactly. I don't think they would allow any students to have guano on campus.
Oh yeah, probably not.
You couldn't have it because when you think about the Fireball spell, 20-foot radius of flame. The
Yeah.
game designers admitted they overpowered the spell a bit because it is an iconic spell.
Yeah.
You can't have people who have access to make this massive sphere of explosion wherever. Yeah, you
Mhm.
wouldn't be allowed to have any guano.
No, absolutely not. Like it would be under lock and key.
Yeah, no guano, no
Much
sulfur.
like yeah, much like in the like in chemistry departments, in pick a college
Yep.
where access to every chemical, although it is there, you have to get allowed that like
Yeah,
through
if you're
like
gonna get
five
access to even
people.
friggin' dry ice, you have to sign
Mhm.
that shit out.
Because like even if something happens, they need to know exactly who it was.
So yeah,
And
so
so it'd be the same kind of way where like every material component would basically be under lock and key, like in the chem lab.
sure. But then you think about the spells that either only have verbal and somatic or just verbal components. Like
Hmm.
those would be the real fun ones.
Yeah, uh, I don't, I don't think any like world government would allow an illusion wizards college. I don't think they would allow it.
Or would they really want to allow divination?
Probably not.
Because I mean,
Nope. Probably not.
yeah.
Ooh.
And also, how would you really test a divination wizard? You certainly couldn't give like a written test because this is sort of thinking about how these abilities would play out in a real world scenario. Think about the divination wizard at level 2. When you select that school, you get portent, which
Hmm.
means at the beginning of each day you roll 2d20, record the results, and at any point during that day, you can replace a would-be die roll with that
Right.
result, your own, and allies and enemies, whatever. And it's the idea of having visions and whatnot, but there being a certain amount of reality to it.
Well, the tests. I mean, the tests for divination would probably need to be.
Practical.
Yeah, they'd need to be like, especially once the students are powerful enough to use scrying. It would have to be like, all right, the professor is somewhere.
Find them.
Tell us where they are. With in different stages of their like practice, be like with like here's the professor's coat. So you have this thing of the professors.
to do the scry with.
Hmm.
So that's letting us know that this is going to go at least up through 5th level spells for their education.
Potentially,
Okay.
because it also depends on where you cut off undergrad and graduate, and I think right between fourth and fifth level is where that break would be.
Sure. You can't just let anybody have access to that scrying.
Absolutely not. Uh, yeah, that would just be irresponsible.
Wouldn't it though? Wouldn't
I
it?
would be incredibly irresponsible, and I can think of way too many ways to misuse that.
This does not surprise me
Yeah,
at all.
nope. I've played too many rogues.
Yep. Yep. The
Next week we next week we talk about training for rogues.
exactly. Training for rogue school. But
No,
again,
but
but each of the different schools, it's kind of interesting to me to think about how you would how you would train them, like what would be the level of aptitude, like school by school. And so again, with where you're at for divination is really good. I think for illusion, you would have to explain this.
god damn it, I knew it was coming back. The
Illusion
my
mastery.
true my true illusion test would be cast some kind of illusion that makes that not visible. You see,
Counterspell.
I think the scariest test
Sure.
would be in the realm of like abjuration,
Okay.
because you'd probably test that against the evocation
Well,
kids.
you'd have to. It just makes sense. Like the two just kind of go hand in hand.
It's just like, all right, test your oh no, all right, test your shield. All right, evocation, test your magic missile.
No, you know what they do? What they do is for shield, they bring in somebody from the barbarian school. And they go test your shield.
No, no, no.
Yeah.
That will end up in a lot of dead students.
I mean, that's when you bring the clerics in.
That's fair.
Yeah. All right, for your resurrection exam,
No.
Eldrock the wizard failed their shield. And Gornak the barbarian turned them into pavement lotion.
Here,
Come back.
if we go in past editions of D&D, your cure serious wounds test.
Yep.
Save this freshman. Oh no.
How many waivers would you have to sign just to
All
sign
of
up for
them.
this shit, right?
That's the first test to get into Wizards College.
Sign the waivers.
Can you deal with the paperwork of signing all these waivers? Because you're going to be doing paperwork forever, and if you can't handle this, you can't be a wizard.
No, no. I like my idea for testing the shield is just get some friggin', you know, side of beef with a warhammer charging in there.
You can get shield at first level. That's a
Yeah,
freshman. They have like 6 hit points.
that's cool. It's first level, so that means the barbarian doesn't have reckless attack yet. So we're good.
Mm-hmm.
They're not swinging at advantage.
Yet.
Ah, that's level 2.
Those tests would just be terrifying.
But they'd be interesting. Okay, so yes,
That's very true.
maybe you're right that the shield test would just be against magic missile.
Yeah.
That's
It would have to be well, actually, I guess it would depend on which school you go to.
I don't know that between wizards there's much else you can really test the shield on that isn't magic missile.
Well, what I mean is it depends on which school you go to, because I
Yeah.
mean, like, going to Alabama, you'd have that barbarian school nearby.
Yeah, it's called the defensive lineman.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Those guys are monsters.
They are. No, they are legitimately.
They are amazing athletes and monsters.
Yes.
Absolute monsters.
Yeah, Alabama is the most interesting NFL team to watch each year.
Right. And thinking about it, with thinking about like football being part of evocation,
Sure.
what about like the different wizard like school clubs
Yep,
would be so much cooler.
they
Cause
would
like
be.
cause like you already have the really interesting, fun, like intramural sports that sometimes happen like in different colleges, like Zorball soccer, and like my school had had fencing club. There was a different
Oh, that's
club
like
for
what Tom
basically every
Sawyer did when he got
nationality.
everyone to do the painting for him.
So many times. So many times I almost end the stream prematurely because of you.
You knew what you signed up for.
I did. But yeah, like think about all the different like college clubs that would be so much cooler because you'd have like this particular style of
Yeah,
divination magic club. You'd have you'd have a club that's specifically for like hanging out in the chemistry lab under the advisory of some professor trying to figure out ways to use material components incorrectly.
sure. Like how what results could you get from that? And then in what ways do they fail?
Yeah, because there were like three different clubs that I could think of from my college that I remember that were doing stuff like that, where they were trying to it was a club dedicated to doing something in a completely different way.
Yeah.
Which those would just be mind-bogglingly cool.
So yeah, so you've got like clubs dedicated to doing things in different ways, clubs to dedicated how it translates to athletics, and clubs dedicated to sandwiches.
Oh, there would absolutely be clubs dedicated to sandwiches.
Well, I have met the club sandwich, so I already know about that club.
God damn it.
You're welcome.
Oh, we need a script of this fucking show.
Nope, absolutely not.
but
No way.
but yeah, and also it would be the like having a regular real life college kind of planned like a wizard's college.
Mhm.
How much cooler would campuses look?
Oh, they would. Like,
Like
think about how
you have so
fast
much.
architecture can be built by like some high level spells.
Yeah,
And when you think about how many spells are, if you cast it every day for an entire year, it becomes permanent. Like that's a
exactly.
thing in a lot of spells. And I want to I think that'd be a real thing. You would actually see student wizards have to be responsible for.
Yeah.
And this is like all my stupid jokes aside, you hear a lot when you are a student the notion
Mhm.
of like leaving your mark, or what legacy are you going to have in life. I really think for a lot of wizards that will kind of be a thing, making sure they have their addition to that campus. Like wizard
Mhm.
campuses will be ever changing and ever growing as you have these students doing these spells day after day after day after day over the course of an entire year to make some sort of fixture of it permanent and
Mhm.
their own, so that future um
Like future
students,
wizards could see it and use
yeah,
it. And think about the like because in a fraternity,
yep,
uh and the idea of being a legacy in a fraternity is huge just from your family. Think about at a wizard's college, like the legacy of you showing up and the like your freshman year you live in the stone-shaped dorm that, your great grandfather made
sure.
as their final project. Like
So
that would be
basic,
wild.
so you realize here's the problem with what we just got onto, is you realize what this is basically telling us is all wizard schools are Ivy League, and it's all just legacies getting
I
in.
mean, that would probably be true just because of the monetary necessity for all of the parchment and all of the ink,
I mean,
and like the financial barrier would be huge.
you're not wrong. So what this really tells us about people who play the wizard class is you are elitist, and wizards are not that great, and you should have played a barbarian in the first place.
You
You're
can't just say that everyone should have played a barbarian. I know you love them,
I can and I will.
but there are more things to be than just a barbarian, my dude.
I'm going to posit this question to you. Are you ready?
Okay.
How many classes in the game get reckless attack? I rest my case.
There's more things than just reckless attack.
Nope. No, not in my world, baby.
There's God. You can't just reckless attack your way through everything.
Watch me. I did it for an entire campaign of a descent through Avernus, man.
I know.
I had a barbarian who, in Waterdeep Dragon Heist, rage climbed a fishbowl. So this lets you know how I do things. It was a giant fishbowl, and I rage climbed it.
Rage climbed a fishbowl?
Yeah, man, because climbing it was a high DC. If I was raging, I would have advantage on strength
Right.
checks.
I mean, those would be the scale of pranks that would happen if there wasn't like anti-magic fields all around the campus.
Oh yeah, oh yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
because I think about some of the dumb things that we did as pranks, and like they were pretty wide scale, all things considered. And if we had magic, oh boy,
Well, you
even
just need
just mage hand.
oh, yeah, obviously, Mage Hand, Prestidigitation, Message, Message. That's
Yep.
the one that faculty really have to watch out for. And
Oh yeah.
and granted, a lot of people's mind first goes to like cheating on tests or things like that. I'm like, oh no, 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 no. This would be like if all of a sudden campus security or like an RA is coming, you would have a message chain to
Hmm.
just send that along to get to where it needs
I
to be
mean,
ahead of folks.
we always had our text message chains for when we were having parties in the dorms.
The alarm spell would be huge
Hmm. Oh yeah.
since alarm can designate who can and can't hear that bell. That'd be a big one.
Yep. So it's just every morning there's a chart of someone that sets alarm for the RA.
And you're going into your pranks. As far as cantrips go, the number one cantrip prank, in my opinion, be or shape water.
Yep. Shape
All
water.
the things you could do with that. That would be exactly where it's at.
It'd be so great. I mean, although prestidigitation would be fun for just changing the color of something.
Or I believe it could change the flavor of things as well.
Also, yes. Yes, it can.
Yeah,
It can change the
that
flavor of
see,
things.
that's where an asshole like me would have fun.
Yes. Yes, you would. You would have too much fun with that.
And the thing is, I wouldn't make things taste like gross things. Like I wouldn't do that. It would never be
You'd
like,
just you'd just make stuff taste like weird things.
yeah, I wouldn't do something like, oh, your sandwich now tastes like mud or dirt. No, that's not okay. But you know what I would do? You're about to sit down to a big juicy cheeseburger, right? You like cheeseburgers? I like cheeseburgers.
Absolutely.
Awesome. We're gonna match just a bacon cheeseburger. We're going next level here.
Don't you do this to me because
And
I think I know what you're setting us up for.
as you're about to bite into it, I would do prestidigitation, and it would taste like a red velvet cupcake.
Yeah, that right there, that's why you're a monster.
It is because you give them something that still tastes good, but
But
imagine
it's
like
the
biting through the lettuce
opposite
and
of
the
what they planned.
tomato. Yeah, like the lettuce and tomato, like you bite through those, and you would be able to feel the coldness of the veg against the heat of the beef and the cheese
Mm.
and whatever, and then it tastes like a cupcake, and your brain wouldn't know what to do with it.
No, it'd be so bad.
And this is
Okay,
why
so
you're glad I'm not a wizard.
last minute,
Yes.
uh one thing that you think would happen in a particular school of magic, like if the college was focused on that school of magic, one particular weird friggin' thing that would happen within that like school program.
So I'll say what would happen. It would be I'm going to go specifically divination because that is my favorite school of all the magics in D&D. I love all that predictive stuff, and it kind of goes back to my love of like Norse mythology and like runes and thinking about the Norns, Odin
Right.
throwing his eye into the well to have eternal knowledge. And here's what would happen is you would have so many students that had to go to the campus counselor because the panic attacks they would have, because the visions they would have of the tests they would fail. That would
Oof.
be what would happen.
Oof. That's bad.
Yeah, because they
Ooh.
wouldn't think anything of these visions at first, but then some of these visions start coming true, and there'd be some good ones, right?
Yeah.
There'd be that person they think is just like so attractive, and they have this vision of like, oh wow, we're going out on a date. And so it makes them have the guts to ask that person out, and it goes
Right.
well. Or they imagine, nailing a presentation, all those things. And then
Yeah.
once enough of those come true, they're going to have the vision of the test they flunk and knowing there is nothing you can do. Doesn't matter how much you study, doesn't matter how much you review, doesn't matter if you get a tutor, you're failing. And that's the
See,
panic attack. And there would be a line of divination students outside that therapist's office.
that would hurt. That
Yeah,
would hurt my soul.
I know. Yeah, I went to
See,
the bad place with it. Hopefully, you've got a better one than I do.
see, for me, I went to a very good place
Thank goodness.
with they'd be probably right next to that counselor's office
Okay.
would be all of the conjuration wizards just doing summon corgi.
Oh,
Just all of the little puppies to help you through that giant anxiety attack.
that's good.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Because
good.
one of my favorite things that I remember happening, and it only happened once while I was there at college, but they had like during finals week, the local shelter brought just a bunch of dogs to campus, and you could just hang out with those dogs for a while
Wonderful.
to deal with the stress of finals. And
That's
so
great.
conjuration wizards, that would be their final.
You ever been to a cat cafe?
No, because I'm allergic to them and they make me sneeze.
I didn't know you were allergic to cats. Well, you've survived well the times you've
Yeah,
been over here.
that's why I bring an extra allergy pill whenever we would come
That
play.
that makes sense. Well,
Yep.
as someone who I'm less allergic to cats than you are. Mine's slight, but as someone who has been to a cat cafe and someone who loves cats, oh man, are they relaxing.
Oh yeah.
Um, the
I'm
most
really
important
happy.
spell.
I'm really happy to
Good.
kind of end on that note.
Well,
Happy
there is one
animals.
last note.
Oh
Is the most
no.
important spell because there are the different locate spells, right? Because think about how important those are. Is
Hmm.
someone would have to know locate thumb.
Knew it was going to happen.
That's where we could end.
Nope. Nope. There has to be something else.
Oh,
I where's Jelly? I need to get that little dog in here.
you're jelly. You're jelly that you can't make your thumb disappear.
I'm now mad at my roommate for naming her dog Jelly just because of that moment. So you've seen Bjorn cast Disintegrate on my entire day.
This is why I'm not allowed to play spellcasting classes because I'll do shit like that all the time.
Apparently.
Yeah.
But I hope you enjoyed this for those of you that watched. If you're like me, and you live in Washington, you are still waiting on your ballot. Go vote. It
Vote.
like
It's really easy to do, and it's your civic friggin' duty. Just do it.
it's very simple and it's very important, especially if you're here with us in Washington.
And seriously,
Uh,
don't don't do like stupid joke ass votes. Like, take it seriously. You're helping decide the well-being of the state and the nation.
Joke votes are completely reserved for places with ranked choice voting,
Yes, they really are.
and everywhere in America should just have everywhere that is even remotely democratic should have ranked choice voting
They
because
absolutely
it's
should.
just better.
Right?
Uh,
Ranked choice voting would actually solve so many problems because then you could actually vote with your conscience.
exactly. But
If you want
make
ranked choice
sure.
voting to happen, vote for people who want to get rid of the electoral college because that's step one.
But yeah, please do the things. Be good to each other. Be good to yourselves.
Please,
Sleep. Drink
please be good
water.
to yourselves. Like
It's a rough pandemic out here,
it
and
is.
the longer it goes on, the more rough it gets. Especially because there are going to be more and more people around you that care less and less about the pandemic, and terrible on your psyche if you're trying to be good about it. So please be good to yourselves.
A great way you can be good to yourself and good to your community. Find a local business, a restaurant that is offering takeout. Order takeout from them. The food will be tasty. You'll support a local business and tip them as if you were dining in, because those workers, they got bills to pay too. And you're just making everybody happy. And check to see if they have, if you do drink alcohol. If you don't, this doesn't apply to you. But if you do, check and see if they have drink kits to go. There are some
Hmm.
places that have fantastic deals on cocktail kits that'll give you everything you need to mix some grade A cocktails at home. There's a
Hmm.
taco place near me that has to go margarita kits. And I can be honest, their margarita mix is fresh. It's house made. And it's one of the best margaritas I've had in years.
Dope.
Yeah.
And I'm going to do one shout out that they're not technically a sponsor, but they're friends of mine, and I love them to death. If you like tea, the Cat and the Kettle, they're a couple. They're friends of mine that they make their own tea blends,
Nice.
as well as a lot of other things. If you're trying to get into spiritualism and Wicca and witchcrafty type stuff, also font of knowledge for that. But look up the Cat and the Kettle. They're good friends of mine, and they could use the extra cash right. Uh, that's just my non-sponsored shout out.
Hell
Uh,
yeah.
so yeah, but this has been Dice Jailers. I hope you've had a lot of fun watching this. We've had a lot of fun making it, especially Bjorn has had fun infuriating me.
I
Uh,
love it.
uh, catch you next week. Wow, I could not have been more ridiculous doing that. I'm just gonna
Yeah.
turn off this stream now.